I'm here with an idea that has been worth spreading for 13,000 years, even if you don't believe it. I was very fortunate to be raised by my indigenous Lenca grandmother in El Salvador, in the eastern part of El Salvador. My homeland is like the belt of the Americas. It's right on the belly button of the planet. And it's this small, tropical, magical place, bathed by two oceans and infused with mythology. In this land, this is where my tribes have made home for more than 13,000 years. And in those lands, my ancestral matriarchs built kingdoms and nations that lasted for millennia until a couple of Castilian crazy men sort of sailed across, lost in the ocean, and ended up ruining a lot of our good work. So most recently in 1980, there was a horrendous civil war, and many people in Australia knew that, and they are aware of what happened, and it was terrible for all of us. It was terrible because we are not allowed to, at that time, we were not allowed to gather in groups like we are here today. It was forbidden to display red colors like we are doing today. And worst of all, you were not meant to ask questions or have opinions. In fact, asking questions and saying the wrong thing could get you killed on the spot. This is the time when my generation almost lost the power, the will, and the skill to ask questions. And in the absence of freedom, no television, no radio, no printed material, because I live in the very, very bush in my homeland, I just spent time listening to my grandmother's stories of ancient times, her mythology, about the people and the land. And I believe that tribal stories talk, and they actually refer to what is to be human. They tell us what is allowed and what is not allowed in our societies. But the best thing is that they answer the questions of existence for humanity because they are perennial truth. One of those little stories of the ancient times that always generated so many questions in my mind is the human creation story that the ancient ancestral matriarchs gave us. Today, following the theme of questioning everything, I want to tell you what happened to me when I was that little chubby boy with spiky hair, and I asked my grandmother the inevitable question, where do I come from? And I know I travel around the world in my work, and I talk to parents, and I talked to some parents in the room who told me how they cringe at the thought of having to explain to their innocent kids how they were made and how come they are here in this planet. And they have all this raft of vocabulary that includes anatomy, physiology, gynecology, embryology, and all the medical science. Well, my grandmother didn't use any of that because she knows the real thing. She told me that I come from the first people who were made out of dust from the stars and cocoa seeds. It's a kind of astronomy or astronomy meets gastronomy, something like that. You get the gist at the end. So, armed with this weaponry, with these thousands of years built up of mythology, my grandmother gave me the most empowering and enduring answer that I will ever find in my life. She told me that when the flaming lady, this female divinity, came from the sky to make the human, she casually picked some dust from the Milky Way. And then she got to the land and gathered raw material. Then she called on the rest of nature to help her make the humans. And of course, nature sent its volunteers. Some animals turned up to help her. The volunteers were the armadillo, the rabbit, the jaguar, the tortoise, the monkey, and the eagle. And the story says that these gorgeous, generous creatures came one by one to the cave of creation to help create this new creature, us. And they were so excited to share. They didn't have a gift. They came to share part of their own gift to make this human being. This was very important because the human being, according to this story, was the last living thing to be made in the creation. And as such, it needed every help it could get if it was to respond, function, answer, and thrive and succeed in a complex world. But these animals fixed that problem for us. And so the first volunteer that came was the armadillo. And the armadillo gave the human the gift of following a path, being down to earth, and obey the rules of the tribe so they could belong. Then came the rabbit. And the rabbit gave humans the gift of being spontaneous, creative, generate ideas, be quick, think outside the box, be sensual, sexual, and to reproduce. Then came the jaguar. And the jaguar had the fire in the belly and gave the humans the gift of actually spotting objectives and having the guts to actually launch themselves towards and get them. After the jaguar came the tortoise. And the tortoise, of course, created the human heart. And by creating the human heart, the tortoise have created a portal of love, empathy, and understanding. Because as a human family and as a human being, we needed to be able to care, empathize, and love each other in the good and bad times. So it was factored in. After the tortoise came the monkey. And the monkey brought humans the gift of seeing, learning, and understanding the visual world, the tangible world. After the monkey came the eagle. And the eagle, of course, gave us the gift of dreaming and imagining worlds and scenarios that are beyond here today. Some of them we have never seen, but we are able to generate them in our mind. 13,000 years after this idea of these women in a tropical cave was proposed in Central America, I have to tell you that I'm excited because current scientific research is allocating resources and attention to the exact same areas that these crazy women were going on about in that time. So what my ancestors attributed to the armadillo is what science called today the neurobiology of the social brain and human affiliation. And there is a lot of research on that. And you know the greatest punishment that a human being can receive is capital punishment or solitary confinement. We are designed to belong. We can't live without belonging. When my ancestors attributed to the jaguar, that of course we call the neurobiology of object attainment or goal attainment, and there is heaps of literature on that one. This we could say in modern parlance, there is circuits in the brain that coupled with testosterone and adrenaline allow us to attend and to obtain objectives that we need. And for some people that are here or viewing us, get bored with details and process and they launch to the objectives, you got the power of the jaguar. That's what we refer to. When science talk about the rabbit, creativity is in all of us. Creativity is embedded in our biology. Science has shown that everyone is creative. This is why humans, because we were not born with a manual how to be human in this world, this is why we can solve problems by generating options and ideas and face an ever-changing world. Google and Apple are a good example in the corporate world how this gift is leveraged from. When it comes to the tortoise, of course, the tortoise, the heart, we have to thank science and neuroimaging because these days we can actually see the brain of people when they are feeling empathy, kindness, compassion, and love. So this is the whole area of emotional intelligence, or EQ. When we refer to the monkey, we are referring to the where and the what in the brain, the world of the objective brain that learn through visual cues, through objectivity, is the basis of the Western model of education and evidence-based science. And finally, the eagle. The eagle gave the gift of imagination of other scenarios and worlds. Well, that is the neurobiology of imagination and is the single most defining aspect that makes us different from the rest of other species, generating ideas and worlds that are beyond here that we might have not even experienced and choose to be in it or out of it. That's a gift that we have. And so I am very happy that as a child I had a question and I asked this old woman about an old myth, almost lost. And that myth led me to an answer. And that answer afterwards, when I went to study health science and I did my degree in neuromarketing, I had to dig in a lot of neuroscience. That became a revelation because I was so amazed of the harmony between the ancient and the new that we are trying to fulfill this gift. But I was horrified that it's the missing of this gift that makes us into compulsive consumers. So my take for today is we can be all those gifts anywhere, anytime with anyone. We can belong, we can be creative and express, we can achieve, we can feel and love, we can learn, and we can dream of a better world. So thank you very much.